I'm Matt Grubbs. For years, New Mexico has had the nation's highest proportion of physicians aged 60 or older. The state's rural nature and wide open spaces, something we have all grown to love and appreciate. It's been a tough sell for new doctors. And when residencies ended this spring for the University of New Mexico, 15 family medicine physicians were residents. 13 of them chose to stay. That doesn't mean the gap is closed. That doesn't mean the problem is solved, but this is a big step. Drs. Molly McLean and Arthur Kaufman are with the Health Sciences Center and the medical school. And joining us by Zoom is Dr. Darshan Patel, who will be practicing at the end of August in Lovington. And thank you all for being here. Why don't we just start with a very general question. Is there sort of a secret sauce to get a result like this with a class of physicians, to get so many people, we should point out that not all of them are from New Mexico, to stay in state, something we really need?
I think there is a secret sauce, and I think many people have been working on this for many years. Historically, looking back to 2011, about 65 to 70% of our graduates do tend to stay, and about 25% of them historically have gone rural. What makes this year so special is 87% stayed and about 62% ended up going rural. I think over the past 7 years, our previous program director, Dr. Dan Waldman, did a lot of work thinking about how do you match people's interests who are coming with the mission of our hospital and of our program. And I think he's thought a lot about that and done an excellent job really figuring out what kinds of criteria to look for to make sure that folks are interested in underserved communities, staying in New Mexico, and going to a rural location. I think the rural piece this year was particularly powerful and has been very variable over the past years. And so Dr. Waldman and Dr. Kaufman was involved too, really instead of focusing on an urban residency, creating a rural residency. And so they have created a rural residency at the IHS at Shiprock. The first IHS residency ever. They are recruiting their first class this year. And so there's a lot more going on than just at UNMH in terms of making sure that people stay in New Mexico and people go to rural New Mexico as well.
And IHS being Indian Health Service.
Correct, yeah.
That's pretty remarkable. Dr. Patel, when you were looking at places where you would like to be a resident, what drew you to this program? Did some of that stuff that Dr. McLean was talking about play into your choice?
Certainly. I actually grew up here in Albuquerque, and it was really important to me to train where I call home and serve the community that helped me when I was being raised. And so, it was a privilege to be able to be part of the UNM Family Medicine residency program. And I think the colleagues and the mentors that, I was able to work with really helped shape my decision to serve the rural communities of New Mexico.
That's something that strikes me as potentially being a change in the way residents are thinking about how they want to serve. I know that working in a big hospital in a big city with lots of amenities might be attractive, but it sounds like residents are thinking a little bit differently about at least how they want to start their medical careers.
Right, and in family medicine, we're trained to be generalists, and we recognize that our skills are needed and also sometimes best served in rural areas where access to resources might be limited, even more limited than in Albuquerque. And so through the robust training process provided by our residency program, I think my colleagues and I realized that we would be able to kind of step into filling needs outside of Albuquerque.
Dr. Arthur Kaufman, you've had a long history with this program. Doctors and their partners, as they look at places that they want to live and begin their career, I know that they can feel isolated, not just geographically, but socially. How do you sort of address some of those needs that everyone has, but that might be particularly difficult for doctors?
I think you have to create an environment in smaller communities which not just replicates what we have in an urban area, but actually goes beyond it in many ways. Smaller communities are very supportive of each other, and sometimes in larger communities people feel anonymous and lonely. But in smaller communities, everyone knows each other, and it's very attractive, especially to people who've never seen that before. So that we've created, for example, where Dr. Patel is going, created Lovington and Hobbs almost as a learning destination. Students, residents, others are all going there so that they're not isolated. They're part of a larger community. And the University of New Mexico is investing in decentralizing our resources, not just family medicine, but also nursing, pharmacy, physical therapy, so that there's a whole community that supports each one of those practitioners.
In the past, would a residency with family and community medicine, would that have taken place primarily at UNMH, at the hospital here in Albuquerque?
Almost all training traditionally is in large academic health centers and large cities, because the incentives were there. But now, especially with the leadership in our state, we're developing models with partner community hospitals, partner community health centers, and the state government to shift that, where resources are going to communities to hire and train residents. And that makes all the difference in the world. I used to work in the Indian Health Service. It changed my life. I saw the world in a different way. We have to give our residents community experiences which will change their attitudes, and where those communities become far more attractive than what they can do in a large urban center.
And Dr. McLean, are residents or prospective residents, are they responding to this type of a program?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I think UNM has been just a leader in creating family medicine doctors for quite some time. We have a very strong program, and because we have such excellent residents that come, they are also very good at helping the medical students see how powerful family medicine is. And I think it's amazing to work with. You don't have to do a lot of work. We attract these residents, and then the residents kind of do that wonderful work for themselves, and I think that they have just done an amazing job. They come in passionate to work for underserved communities, and they dedicate their energy and time and their futures to doing that. And I think that we just did a good, we don't create that in the residency program. We just facilitate the education that they kind of want. And so I think it seems like the future of medicine really is, I think, mirrored in our residents. And I think the medical students that we work with, their drive really is to serve underserved, go rural, do all the things that family medicine doctors can do that other specialties really can't do. It's just really exciting to be a part of it and to be able to facilitate that.
Sure. Dr. Patel, you're one of the few people in the program who actually is from New Mexico and chose to stay here. It sounds like most of the folks, at least in this class, who chose to stay here weren't from here. Have you discussed those choices to stay in New Mexico and work in rural hospitals with any of your classmates or folks in that residency class?
Yes, I mean, I think we have robust opportunities to train in rural sites throughout our residency program, and I think that allows people who aren't, familiar with the rural communities of New Mexico to actually have strong training opportunities while they're completing the residency program. And so, I think that was a really important part of having people decide to go rural. But it's true, we're competing nationally for residents to come to New Mexico. We know that people who train in New Mexico will stay, statistically have a higher likelihood of staying. And so I think, we need to recognize as a state, University of New Mexico needs to attract residents so that we can convince them to stay after they're done with their training.
Having a chance to work in a rural hospital or a rural medical setting prior to actually taking a job in a place like Lovington, how did that play into your education and your excitement, basically, for heading out into sort of the wilds of New Mexico, at least as folks from maybe Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Las Cruces see it?
Well, I think even though we're primarily serving patients in Albuquerque, many of our patients have footprints in rural areas. You can be rural very quickly, even if you live in the Albuquerque Santa Fe area. So my continuity clinic site, for example, was in the Albuquerque Indian Health Center, which is an IHS facility, and many of my patients were traveling, many, many miles, hours to come to see their provider here in Albuquerque. And so, I think even if you were practicing in Albuquerque, you recognize that our state is very rural, and I think being a family medicine physician, we recognize that even though we serve patients in Albuquerque, the needs are even greater outside of the state or outside of the city.
Sure. Doctors Kaufman and McLean, as you look at the future of this program, do you feel like the future is sort of a more decentralized model?
Yes. I think the model that Dr. Patel and Dr. McLean are developing really demonstrates a huge change in our thinking about training, because it has to be driven by community need, not necessarily big city hospital need. And one of the data fragments that's important is that if you can locate a graduate physician in a rural community, that physician generates about $1 million in business for that community. It sustains the rural hospital, it brings jobs to that community, it raises the tax base. There's a huge economic impact, and that's why there's so much interest in this kind of program. That graduate education is not just for a few doctors, it's the impact on community health that's so important.
Do you get that when you look at places to put your residents, in rural communities? Do you hear from not just the hospitals and the clinics, but from the mayors, the councils, things like that?
Oh yeah, I think that's one of the biggest draws. We have a required rural rotation for all of our residents, and we have relationships, really strong, important relationships with the Indian Health Services at Zuni and at Shiprock. We have some sites at Gallup, and there are a number of residency programs at rural sites at Silver City. Santa Fe is still considered rural, although I think that's kind of funny, and we work closely with them as well. And I think what happens is that the residents go to those sites and really see what it feels like to be a rural physician and see what an important but also partnered role they play with the community, that it's not just a doctor being in a clinic seeing patients and having kind of isolated from that relational piece. I think they go into the community, and I had that same experience at Shiprock. You go into a community and it, just like what Dr. Kaufman was saying, it feels completely different, and it feels more powerful in terms of the relational piece, which is so important for family medicine. Primary care is about relationship, and it really is about building connection with people. And I think if you have the capacity to do that in a community setting, it feels like so many of us feel that's what family medicine is all about. And so those rural rotations are just so important for that experience that we may never have had before. And I think that may have a large part in why we had residents like clamoring to get to Zuni when they graduated, clamoring to get to Shiprock. We have 2 folks going to Gallup, 2 folks going to Santa Rosa. They had that experience in the rural setting that they don't get in a city, in a more urban setting. And I think that had a lot to do with why they stayed.
Well, it's an encouraging result, and we thank you all for the time that you spent thinking about it and the time you spent talking with us about it. Thanks for your work. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.